Hello, everybody. The goal today is going to be to make a responsive page using Bubble's new Flexbox engine with responsive settings. So we're going to cover page layouts and some responsiveness here, some basic stuff. So you can see this is kind of the end goal that we want to get to. So we've got four different views here. All right, and you can see that the URL is changing for each one of these. Payment, profile, and teams in particular is a particularly interesting screen because we can, if we use our Chrome developer tools here, and you can do that with Control, Shift, and I if you're using Chrome, see how this is responsive, right? And you can see like even the side nav here collapses, and then when we hit the hamburger menu on the top, we get our little thing here, right? So ideal for mobile. Okay, so let's work backwards from this end goal, and we'll see if we can't recreate this. Try to follow along in your editors as I do this. This way, when you and I speak, you can come to me with your questions or where you got stuck, or if you want me to elaborate on something that I may have glossed over or went too quickly, you can ask those questions when we talk, right? So we'll maximize the time that we have together. Okay, so you should be starting with a blank page. There are no elements on this page. You can see all I have is the page here, but it is upgraded to the new responsive, right? So if you're on an old page, you'll see something like this, this little blue circle here. You'll want to upgrade to the new responsive. Okay, that's first and foremost. If you're in the new responsive, you should see these three tabs in any property editor: appearance, layout, conditional. The old one will have a different arrangement here. Okay, so let's do is set the layout for my page, and I want this to be a row, right? And the reason I want it to be a row is because you'll notice that there's two columns of things that are happening here, right? There's my left side nav, and then there's this other content here to the right. These are in what's known as a row layout because they go horizontal, I guess. If it was a column layout, it would look more like this. This is a column layout, the way that the dashboard, because all the navigation is, because all the elements are stacked on top of each other. All right, so let's go with this row layout. All right, so we've got our row set up. I'm going to add a group, and notice what happens. We've got a group A here. If I add another group, it's going to go to the right of it. All right, so this is the example group A and group B. This is an example of how rows work. If we were to change this to a column layout, you would see that these stack on top of each other. So now, a couple things I'm going to do here. Let's first name my elements. I always name the element something. We'll call this group left sidebar. And we want to expand it. We want this to expand the entire height of the page. So we're going to choose this option here, the vertical stretch, right? And that's always going to be the full length of the page, or the full height of the page, which is what we want. All right, let's add a couple of elements here. Let's add an image. All right, so I haven't set the layout of my group sidebar. So you can see that like all of the groups have to have their own layout, right? The page itself is a group. This one we're going to set to be a column, again, because we want it to resemble this column format here. All right, we'll make this. I'm just going to upload a handy picture that I have. Okay, we'll call this image logo. And I'm going to check off for the logo, keep element aspect ratio fixed. Center it. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. It doesn't need to be this big. Let's make it 150. And let's give it 20 pixel margin off the top of the parent group. All right, we don't want it exactly all the way on the top there. Okay, so that's our image. Nothing too complicated there. Now let's add another group, right, to our column layout, our left sidebar. Again, we're building the left sidebar. Let's add a column layout. We have a column layout. Let's add a group here. You see that stacks right underneath. We'll call this group dashboard side nav. Super important to name the elements in a way that makes sense to you. And we're going to make this a row container again because we're going to have an icon and the text here, that's in a row layout. All right, so we'll do row, center it, center it. And let's add our text. Let's add our icon. Icon, and I will just assign it the icon's color. I'm going to make this a fixed width and a fixed height, 2020. It's kind of small. All right, and let's center this in the middle, right? So if I hit the vertical alignment, it'll center it in the middle of the parent element vertically. Okay, I do want to change, let's call this icon dashboard. And let's change the layout to be left aligned here. All right, we're going to do some text. Very simply, we're just going to call this dashboard. Text dashboard. Change that to be a little bit more visible with the style. And same thing, I'm just going to vertically align it to be centered. All right, now let's preview this and see what we got. All right, so it looks a little strange, a little off center here, so I'm just going to fix this alignment a little bit. Maybe give it a little bit of a margin here. We'll go 20 pixel margin to the left. Dashboard, I think we can leave alone. I think it's okay the way it is. Let's preview that. Okay, that's okay to me. This doesn't have to be perfect. It's really more to illustrate. This tutorial is really more to illustrate how to work with the Flexbox engine and what these different terminology means. All right, so let's continue with this. I think this is okay. Again, I'm just going to put, you'll notice like 20 pixel margin seems to be kind of the standard here. So I'm going to put 20 pixels between the top of the group and my element. 20 pixels on the top. And now the cool thing is that I can just copy this down for my other side nav views that I want to display here. So all I got to do is hold down Control, left click the arrow, drop this down. I can do this a whole bunch of times. I'm going to do that for all my other views. Now, the thing I'll have to do that takes a little bit more time is rename the elements, because we don't want any duplicate elements. Team side nav. All right, and I'll change the text board to text team side nav. All right, so now you can see that we built our side navigation here. We've got our 4 views, right? And you can see that we've used a combination of a few different layouts here, right? So this is a column layout because again, the groups are stacked on top of each other. And inside here, this is a row layout, right? Because we have the house, the icon here, and then we have the text beside it to the right of it. All right. So let's now build out some of the content that we want to see on the right side here. And we'll call this our group content. And this is where all of the other groups are going to live on the right side, right? So this is going to be the content that people navigate to when they click on one of these 4 view options here. Okay, so let's do a few things here. Let's first off, we don't want this to be fixed. We also want this to be a column. And let's uncheck makes this element fixed width. And what that does is it allows it to stretch for the full right length of the screen. So let's do our header group first. There's group header. This can also be a row layout. And we're going to uncheck that this element is a fixed width, and we're just going to give it a 60 pixel height. This doesn't need to be that big. We don't have much content to put in there. That's just going to be our hamburger menu. So again, it's kind of in this like top left corner here. So we'll want to move it just a little bit. So let's do, first off, let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's do a 30 by 30. Actually, we'll shrink this down a little bit, 30 by 30. And then we'll do a horizontal alignment, and we'll put a 20 pixel width. No, I'm sorry, 20 pixel margin along the left. So it's not right on the top there, right along the left. And we're going to say when current page width is less than 768, this element is visible. Okay, so you can see that when we load the page now, it's not there. It's not taking up any space. Actually, let's make sure of that. And let's also do collapse when hidden so that it doesn't take up any space. You can see that when it gets down to 768 pixels, right there, this pops up. Now, obviously that's not good down there. What we have to do is hide this group so that this appears on the top. So we're going to kind of say the opposite here for the left sidebar. We're going to say when current page width is less than 768, this element is visible, and then we leave that unchecked. And then we leave that unchecked. And then we'll also hit collapse when hidden. So we're collapsing the width of the group when it's hidden. All right, and then you see that we get the effect that we want. We've got our hamburger, and we've got our side nav. Hamburger, side nav, hamburger, side nav. Let's build 4 groups here. We're going to make them all the same size. These are going to be, we'll make these aligned to parent just for fun. There's not a whole lot we need to do with that layout, but I want to explain how that works. We'll call this group dashboard. Let's make it 320 minimum width, and we'll uncheck make to the fixed width. 320 pixels is kind of the lowest size screen that you want to be on, or you want to kind of build for the smallest size of around 320. And we'll make the minimum height 250. Okay, and then I'm going to add some text to this just to show that we have which group we're actually looking at. Dashboard. The interesting thing about align to parent is that this is the only layout where you can use the, you can kind of overlay elements, right? So if you wanted to put this text on top of a picture or something, align to parent will be the way to do that. If you're using row or column, the Flexbox or Bubble is going to force those things into that format, into a row or a column. It's not going to let you overlap elements or place them on top of one another. You're going to have to do that with align to parent. So you can see now that regardless of the size of the screen, or regardless of what changes on the screen, this is going to be, you're going to be able to place this anywhere in these like 9 things here, these 9 positions. All right, so that'd be top right, center. Now I'm doing the top left. It doesn't have to be exactly here. I can put a bit of margin on it. On the top, 20, and on the left, 20. And I'll get rid of the 90. Okay, so it's not, you're not locked into this exact position. You can use margins to kind of manipulate that. All right, let's do this a couple more times. Let's do our team. So we'll change this to group team, text team. Okay. All right, so now we've got our header and our 4 groups inside of our group content tier. You see everything is named nicely. There's no duplicate elements for the names. We've got a nice setup here. Now let's preview this and see what happens. Let's get out of this responsive mode. All right, so we've got all of the things on the page at the same time. There's no scroll available. So what we want to do is limit these views. We're going to say when the view is dashboard, we're going to use URL parameters to hide and display these groups based on some conditional logic. So first thing I'm going to do is say this element is not visible on page load, and we're going to collapse when hidden. Now when we do that, you'll see that we lost our dashboard view here, right? Now, dashboard group, when the user clicks anywhere, clicks onto this dashboard group, we're going to start edit the workflow. And we're going to say navigation, go to page. Destination is going to be the same page that we're working on, right? So the new responsive working. We're going to send more parameters to the page, and it's going to be v for view is equal to dashboard, all lowercase. And then we could say in our back in our dashboard group here on the front end, when get data from page URL, v is dashboard, this element is visible. So now if we preview this and we click the dashboard here, you see that it sends a URL parameter to the page, v equals dashboard, and then we have our dashboard screen. So let's do that for the other views now. So let's uncheck team. So let's do that for the other ones. We're going to uncheck this element is visible on page load, collapse when hidden. Same here, and always collapse when hidden. All right, and now let's do the same thing for team. We're going to make sure you're clicking on the group level, not the text. You can say navigation, go to page, new responsive working, send parameters to the page, v is equal to team. Cool. Then we go back, when get data from page URL, v is team, this element is visible. Again, if we go back to the previewer, we've got no parameter, then we got dashboard, then we got team. Now to the user, this all looks like one view or one group, right? But to us, we know there's different groups being hidden and displayed, and they're just taking each other's place because they're the same size. All right, now when the page is loaded, you'll probably notice that there isn't anything being displayed. So if we want to kind of do on page load, we want the dashboard to show, for example, we can say, go to our workflow. We'll use a different event here, when page is loaded. We'll use this here. We'll change this to dashboard. But we only want this to happen when get data from page URL, v is empty. Otherwise, it'll block any other views from displaying. Okay, so now you see if we refresh, it starts on dashboard. Team, payment, profile, dashboard. Cool. Now let's work with the repeating group. All right, repeating groups get a little bit complicated, so I do want to spend a little bit of time on how to make a repeating group responsive. So let's put a repeating group into our team group here. So we have a few users that we could display, a few team members that we could display. So we'll put this repeating group here. Call this repeating group team. And we're going to look up to a group of users, because we already have some users in our database that we're going to use as team members. And we'll say do a search for users. So all of them. All right, I'm going to uncheck set number of fixed rows and uncheck fixed number of columns. And I want to make these 350 pixels each. Let's actually change the group team from a line to parent to a column, because I do want these to stack on top of each other. I want the team to be on top, team text to be on top, and I want the repeating group to be below that. We don't want that overlaying like that. The repeating group itself, I want to be a column format also. And we will uncheck make this a fixed width, and we'll stretch it across. All right, so let's add a few elements here. Let's add our image. And this will be current sales user's headshot. And we'll just pretty it up a little bit to make them all the same sizes. Resize to fit by cropping. Add some text beneath the image. And we'll say current sales user's email. Have their email address there. Put a bit of margin between the text and the image. Center it. And last, we'll just add a button that'll simulate a navigation to get more details. So we'll change this to details. So let's preview this, see how that looks. Go to our team. All right, so you see we got our team members up here. Let's see what happens when we shrink it down. Okay, and you can see that's responding pretty nicely, actually. That's really what we want. The final thing we'll do is program this hamburger menu on the top. The behavior that we want is that when they hit the hamburger menu, they're going to see this, and then they can click on the view to change it, even if it's all the way sized down like this. All right. Let's give that a go. All right, so we're going to start edit workflow. And we'll go element actions, and we'll toggle the group left sidebar. Let's see what that does. So you can see now, when we go down, when we go down to smaller size, we hit the side nav, and then this pops up. Now we don't want this. Let's try to get rid of this. We don't want this content displaying beneath it. So we'll say we can do this at the group content level. We can say when group left sidebar is visible and current page width is less than 768, this element is visible, and leave it unchecked. Okay, so we shrink down, and that disappears. And also what we can do, we can add another step in this workflow. So you'll notice that, like, if I shrink this down, and I go here, it kind of gets stuck because of that condition that I just set. It's not going to display anything from the content group. So what I can do is also add a step in these workflows that says, I can add a step in this workflow that says toggle group left sidebar only when current page width is less than 992. That's my issue here. And then I'll make this the go to page is the last step in the workflow. All right, so then you can see that effect. All right, so we've got our dashboard here. Shrink this down. We hit dashboard, then it takes us to our dashboard. And we can do that for each of these now. We can do that second toggle for all of the different options that we have in this list here. So I'll do that one more time. Start edit workflow, element actions, toggle, group left sidebar. Make that the first. All right, so when we're back here, preview that. We go down to the smallest view, 322, go to team, then we got our team here. Or we got dashboard. Example. So hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on how to work with the new Flexbox engine, the page layouts, some basic responsive settings, hiding and displaying groups, using URL parameters and conditionals, and try and recreate this yourself in your app. Start from scratch like I did, just build it from nothing. And if you can do this on your own, you're going to have a very good sense of how to work with responsive pages in Bubble in the new responsive engine. All right, I'll talk to you soon.